Time for position preview. Defensive line for the Denver Broncos. Orange and blue today, Cecil Lammey, Andrew Mason. It's not just Zach Allen and DJ Jones, and John Franklin Myers, and Malcolm Roach, Savion Jones. My God, depth everywhere.
Depth everywhere, but what if I told you that Zach Allen, with his 40 quarterback hits last year, went somewhere that in the last 7 seasons among interior defensive linemen, only Aaron Donald has gone. 40-plus quarterback hits in a season. Aaron Donald went there in 2018. Zach Allen went there last year. That there are only 4 players who have had 40 quarterback hits in a season since 2018 at any position, and Zach Allen was one of them. Zach Allen had a truly special season last year, Cease. Yes. Truly special. Second team All-Pro didn't do it justice. He should have been first team All-Pro. The voters messed that one up.
No doubt. No doubt. They messed it up bad because if you're outside of Denver, you may not even realize just how special Zach Allen was and can continue to be.
Yes.
That's the thing. He's been building for this for years. Remember when he was that's the guy opposite J.J. Watt guy?
Yeah.
Now, we didn't say that, but that was said about Zach when he came here.
It was the reason people doubted him, frankly, when he came in. Is like, okay, he had this big season for the Cardinals in 2022, right? That was the year he broke out. He had 5.5 sacks. He had 20 quarterback hits. Both of those were career highs. And both of those came in the season where J.J. Watt was back to health. It was where J.J. really looked like young J.J. again. It was the Renaissance year, and then he decided to go out on a high. Can't blame him for that, right?
No.
Yeah. Went out on a high, retired. Kind of. JJ always had great timing on things. He always had a sense of the theatrical. That was just part of what made him special. But it was a critique of Zach Allen that maybe some of that was JJ getting a lot of attention because JJ is a first ballot Hall of Famer. You know what? If you're doing a Mount Rushmore of interior defensive linemen all time, you could argue J.J. Watt's on that list.
Yes.
Or on that carving. That's how good he is. And then with Zach Allen, he's not at that level, but man, he comes to Denver, and I think people were a little bit disappointed with how he played his first season, but I wasn't. And he really came on that year. The thing, he had 24 quarterback hits that year in 2023. That's a great total for an interior defensive lineman.
Yep.
The Broncos hadn't seen anything like that from an interior defensive lineman in a long time. It was a great season for him. And then he went to another level. Last year, he was otherworldly. And this is another thing. When you look at their pass rush, a little bit of a chicken and egg thing. Nick Bonito is the guy who leads him in sacks, but Zach Allen is setting up a lot of that.
Yep.
Nick Bonito is the sack leader, but the guy who's getting the most quarterback hits, the guy who's actually getting to the quarterback the most often, it's number 99 coming from the interior. This guy is wrecking things. So yes. It's tandem. It's something that harkens back to those great Broncos defenses of a decade ago. Yeah, Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware on the edge, and then behind them, Shane Ray and Shaq Barrett got so much attention. But equally responsible were those dudes on the interior, Derek Wolfe and Malik Jackson. You think back to the AFC Championship game against the Patriots and Tom Brady. And Derek Wolfe and Malik Jackson were at least equally responsible, if not more so, for completely discombobulating Tom Brady in the Patriots pass game, breaking that down from the inside out. And that's what you see from Zach Allen. And then setting things up for his other guys on the interior. Zach Allen is a huge reason why John Franklin Myers had the best season of his career. And think about JFM. He's a dude who's worked with Aaron Donald, and Zach Allen last year with 40 quarterback hits in the last 7 years, going to a territory in terms of quarterback hits in a season that only Aaron Donald has reached in the last 7 years. And Aaron Donald's another one of those guys like J.J. Watt, who's in the all-time pantheon of interior defensive linemen as far as pass rushing goes.
Right. Dominant players.
Yes.
Zach Allen is a dominant player on the inside of the defensive line, and he does it with strength, hustle, length, tenacity, smarts, right? And you can think back to Derek and Vaughn. It was almost unspoken. You're getting some of that with Allen and Benito as well, where they don't have to communicate. They just know based on their movements, maybe even a glance of what the other's going to do.
Yeah, that's where it gets really special. They look at each other. There's a, maybe a hand motion here. They're on the same page. And it really kind of went to the next level last year when Vance Joseph kind of simplified things, focused more on attacking. VJ doing more of what he does best and really kind of getting back to a lot of things conceptually that he learned from Wade Phillips. Like VJ's putting his own spin on things, of course, but in terms of what he comes from, like what tree is VJ on conceptually? He's on the Wade Phillips tree. And if we're going to go like, okay, what tree is Wade Phillips on? Wade's kind of on the Buddy Ryan tree if we're going to go kind of way back, because Wade learned a lot from Buddy Ryan working under him in Philadelphia back in the late 1980s before he came to Denver. I mean, what Wade has kind of done, Wade sort of got like a 3-4 version of what Buddy did in the 4-3 back in the day. And then VJ's kind of, done his own spin on things. Remember, sort of the weakness of the 2023 Bronco defense was, VJ trying to sort of meld some of the holdover concepts of the Fangio defense a little bit. And last year, we kind of got to more of what were kind of VJ's core concepts a little bit. So you're getting more into man coverage, you're getting more into kind of working in terms of aggression, simplification, pressures. And that unleashed a lot of things for this Broncos defense. And I think that's something that suited Zach Allen. I remember talking with him last year about VJ simplifying things, getting back to a more aggressive attack. And it unleashed things for Zach Allen in a big way as well.
He's the first one that told us about that.
He was the one who kind of, peeled back the curtain a little bit on that. And then we saw the results last year. The defense taking things to the next level and flourishing really until the end of the season when Riley Moss went down and after losing Alex Singleton early on in the season. So now back to full strength with better personnel as well. And now up front, hopefully a little deeper now when you bring in Savion Jones there as a 3rd-round pick who's had some flashes already there in off-season work. We'll see if he can add on to that once the pads go on.
And now that you brought up the Buddy Ryan Eagles, I'm just thinking of Jerome Brown.
Yeah.
It was not just all Reggie White.
It wasn't. But it's funny to mention that defensive line, it was an exceptional group of personalities that meshed together.
Yes.
This is something that also distinguishes the Broncos defensive line, is that it's a wonderful group of personalities. These guys sometimes talk about their group chat, their group text chat. It's everyone brings something different. Zach Allen, he's somebody like you talked about, like how, he's one of the smarter guys, right? Like it's not just physical and length. It's like kind of what he brings with his mind as well. You've got some big personalities. JFM, John Franklin Myers, is a big personality.
Huge personality.
Malcolm Roach is a big personality, but it's not just kind of a big personality. It's a positive personality. Like he's always like the funny guy. He keeps things up. He keeps things light. And it's interesting because Sean Payton alluded to this during minicamp. This is something that maybe wasn't always evident in New Orleans. Sean Payton had Malcolm Roach in New Orleans, but he grew into something maybe a little bigger than he was in the Saints locker room. Sometimes this is just part of a guy maturing and growing, but he had a bigger presence with the Broncos than he had with the Saints. Here's Sean Payton talking about kind of the growth of Malcolm Roach's personality.
Yeah, I don't recall when I was in New Orleans that leadership. You know, he was a younger player there. And so the leadership, one of his great traits is he doesn't have bad days. Like, and if you guys have spent time interviewing him, he's upbeat. He comes out here with energy, and I think that's contagious to his position group.
It really is. And you need guys like that.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this team, say, for example, coming out of the Kansas City game last November. You and I have talked about this and how one of the things that really made this team special last year was its resilience, and how you had that moment where they go to KC, they drive for what should have been the game-winning field goal, the moment that you would have thought would have changed everything for this team, and it's snatched away in the most heartbreaking fashion imaginable. That loss would have broken a lot of teams the way it happened. Well, these Broncos, 7 days later, go out there and play their most complete game in ages. It's a testament to the character of the team as a whole, a testament to their resilience. One of the reasons why, frankly, is guys like Malcolm Roach, who, despite a moment like that could cause everyone's emotions to completely crater, is still upbeat, getting everyone going, being positive. Like, guys, all right, let's go. Cracking jokes, making everybody feel good, keeping everybody light and positive, finding the sunny side of things. These are things you need. It's why when you look at keeping chemistry and how you've got these contract situations coming up here, right? And it's something we have to talk about with this defensive line, because this D-line is a special group in terms of chemistry. All the guys talk about it. DJ Jones has talked about it. JFM has talked about it. Malcolm's talked about it. It's a unique group. These guys know they've got something special together. It goes all the way to the practice squad guys. Matt Henningsen fits in that. Everybody brings something different, and they all come together to make a really special blend of personalities. Well, you've got JFM in a contract year. You've got Malcolm Roach in a contract year. You got Zach Allen in the contract year. And they draft Savion Jones. He's going to come into that. And, he's talked about how, he's learning how to be a pro, and, he's, being accepted. He's fitting into that. Like, it's a good group to learn how to be a professional from. No doubt about that.
Oh, yeah.
Today's episode of Orange and Blue Today is presented by Ramos Law, the official injury law firm partner of the Denver Broncos. Ramos Law was founded by Dr. Joseph Ramos, an attorney and ER doctor, to provide exceptional care to those injured in accidents. With a unique understanding of both medicine and law, the Ramos Law team is built to fight for you every step of the way. Experience the Ramos Law difference. Contact them today at ramoslaw.com.
You may not be able to keep all of them. And that can affect the dynamic a little bit, certainly. And before you make any decisions contract wise, and you may have to make some tough decisions. You just maybe have to ruminate on things and know that any move you make kind of can alter the delicate balance. Chemistry is a delicate thing, and altering it might really affect the outcome of what you get from the position group. Like JFM was out there for minicamp. Remember, he wasn't out there for OTAs. And certainly that contract situation sort of is kind of a cloud over the whole thing. And we sort of know that probably not everybody's going to be back in 2026. And how does that end up factoring into what we get out of this defensive line, what we see out of this defensive line for the Denver Broncos this year? That's something that bears monitoring, because it can be a fragile thing.
The rumblings are Zach Allen wants $25 million a year.
Yeah, and that is
Not
something
outlandish.
Yeah, it's not outlandish based on his production. No doubt about that. But with Zach Allen, you are talking about a player who's going to be in his 8th year in 2026. Now, one thing that does come into the equation is his age. He is only, believe it or not, he's only 27 years old. He's going into his 7th year right now. He's only 27. When he was drafted, Cease, he was drafted at the age of 21, turned 22 during his initial training camp of 2019. So year 8 for him in 2026, he's going to be 29 years of age when that happens. So that's fine, right? But $25 million in a contract, and certainly 40 quarterback hits. And like I mentioned, territory that in the last 7 years in a single season, only Aaron Donald has reached. So if I throw that name out there, Aaron Donald, first ballot Hall of Famer when his name comes up. I think that's obvious. When his name comes up in the selection meeting, there's not a lot that's going to need to be said, right? Maybe it's not as short as Woody Page's speech when I think he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, John Elway," and that was it. And he sat down when he presented his name in the Hall of Fame. But it's not going to take long to make the case for Aaron Donald for the Hall of Fame. It's pretty much open and shut. So if you're talking about Zach Allen doing something in the last several years that only Aaron Donald has done, that means he's headed into stratospheric contract territory. Okay. But if it's a 3-year deal, let's say 3 years, $75 million. That's year 8, year 9, year 10. That's the age 29, age 30, age 31 seasons. You're fine with it at age 29. Okay. How do you feel about that at age 30 and age 31? And that's where it becomes a really interesting debate that you end up having in terms of how much you end up deciding to pay Zach Allen and what type of contract the Broncos are willing to pay. Does this become a situation, Cease, where you're talking about maybe a franchise tag in 2026?
If this is a situation where Vance Joseph gets a head coaching job and Zach Allen has only played for Vance Joseph and maybe would want to follow him, protect yourself by franchise tagging him.
Yep.
And then maybe it's like a sign and trade deal. So, because you're not going to surrender 2 first-round picks for Zach Allen. Okay.
Because here's the thing. Next year, the franchise tag for defensive end is $26.535 million. That's what's projected to be according to overthecap.com. So what's more palatable? Now, the franchise tag does obviously come with the risk of angering a player. Okay. So there's that. That's something you have to consider. Do you want to create that? We know what happened. For example, the Broncos did have Justin Simmons play on a franchise tag a few years ago, but that was playing year 5 on a franchise tag, and eventually a contract got done. An 8th-year guy playing on a franchise tag is different, because then all of a sudden it's like, okay, he's having to negotiate a contract in his age 30 season. So it's like, if you give Zach Allen the franchise tag, it's one of those things that it makes sense for the team. Like, it would be probably a wise move for the team, right? Because there's reasons to say maybe you don't want to have a $25 million cap figure for a age 31, 10th year of Zach Allen. There's an argument that says maybe that's not what you want. If you're just saying, okay, what do we really expect from Zach Allen in his age 31 season? You could make that argument there intellectually. You could. It hurts, but you can make that. But would it be doing right by him based on the contributions he's made to you? Like, this is one of those things where it's going to be the heart against the head. You know, the heart says you take care of the guy that's done something big for you. And maybe you live with a number for year 10 that's bigger, year 10 to age 31 season, that maybe it's bigger than you want, but is a payment for maybe services rendered in the past, perhaps, right? So maybe his age 31 season, you've got a $25 million figure. Maybe he doesn't play to $25 million, but then you also have to consider the fact that Zach Allen in 2024, when he played for you, was a heck of a bargain, because he gave you 40 quarterback hits on a cap figure of $7.7 million.
Oh,
Zach Allen might have been the biggest bargain in the NFL last year. So if you sign Zach Allen with a 3-year, $75 million deal, and let's say you decide, okay, we're going to have an equal cap number in 26, 27, 28, $25 million each year. And say that in 28, you had the $25 million cap figure, and he got hurt because it's year 10 and age is catching up, and he has 13 or 14 quarterback hits over, say, 9 or 10 games played. Okay. All right. Does that frustrate you a little bit? Yeah. But think of it that you got 40 quarterback hits over $7.7 million in cap. I'm just saying, maybe sometimes you just have to think of it that way. That's if you want to kind of live with it, that's sometimes how you have to think about it. If you want to do right by a guy. And this is another thing. So you also have to think about doing right by a player in terms of how your reputation as a franchise is going to be. Do you want to be one of those clubs that is considered to be taking care of its players, or do you want to be one of those clubs that is considered to be not doing so? Because
Cincinnati.
Yes. Or do you remember what the Broncos' reputation was in the mid to late 2010s? Right.
Von Miller taking John Elway out of pictures. Philip
Yeah.
Lindsay getting lied to by John of like, we're going to take care of you. And then they never did with Phil.
The Broncos did not have a good reputation.
Agents hated working with them
in those last years of the Elway era. And if the Broncos, let's face it, if the Broncos did tag Zach Allen next year and it wasn't a tag and trade and they want him to play on that franchise tag, it might be the right move in terms of like the actuarial table type of thing, right? But it may not be the right move in terms of the reputation that you would have among players around this league. So in other words, it's the kind of thing that if the Broncos did, it might cost you in some ways that you can't calculate. So be careful.
Be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful. Let's give a little more love for Savion Jones before we wrap.
Yes.
Today. Because Savion, one, I love the pick.
I do too.
We got to talk to him at rookie minicamp. I think he has incredible upside. I mean, part of your rough decisions, probably for JFM,
Yeah.
is you have Savion Jones there. And
Yeah.
he is a player that is a young player, can actually, and this is the second time we're going to bring up Reggie White, he can do the forklift. Not
Mm,
many guys, especially rookies. Mace, you and I watch a lot of film.
yeah,
I hardly ever see a rookie do the forklift.
I know.
Savion Jones can do the forklift move. Not as good as Reggie. Nobody can
No
do it
one
as good.
has ever done it as well as
But you
Reggie
can
White.
forklift and toss men. You can toss men. If you're Savion Jones, he has that ability.
Well, how many times do we talk about, do you have a special trait? He's got a special trait there.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. And he's got length. Like, I see a little bit of Malik Jackson in him. The second time I mentioned Malik in this show. But when I watched him work in not only rookie minicamp, but OTAs, I sort of saw him being where Malik was about a year into his career. Malik was incredibly raw. So maybe you can start getting some performance out of him as a rookie. I think there's a decent chance he works his way into the active rotation as a rookie. Now, that's going to mean, does he take some reps from, say, Jordan Jackson, perhaps? That could happen. Someone like Eni Awazarike, who, of course, got derailed by the gambling suspension. Someone like him is going to be on the bubble because Savion Jones might be that good. And then to go back to the whole chemistry thing, does Savion Jones's progress mean that someone like JFM doesn't get re-signed because Jones might do enough to end up kind of taking his reps by 2026? That's something that comes into play as well. But that, it's nothing against JFM. It's just that Jones might be that good to demand taking more reps and getting more chances. He has the skill set.
There's always trade scenarios.
Yeah.
JFM could be a player that you traded for and then trade away.
Yeah.
Because of a guy like Savion Jones.
Yeah. It's the circle of life in the NFL, you know. It's rough. But it's the way it is. Like, every year there's a new generation comes in that's, you know, nipping at the heels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a zero-sum game. They don't create an extra 10 roster spots to go from 53 to 63 to let the young guys in. They're taking spots. It's the reality of things.
Yep.
So, man, it's the sad part about this.
It is. But we get to watch a great defensive line this year to help out a great Broncos defense. We would never trade you as our audience because we love you so much and we appreciate the love that we get back from you as well. Mace, how can folks show us love here on YouTube?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never
miss
a vid.
That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's a BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty?